Real Country 1430 AM and 1073 FM WRDN. This is the WRDN Morning Farm Report. I'm Brian Winnekins. Joining us this morning is Dr. Paul Mitchell with UW-Madison and UW Extension. And today we're going to talk about some possible recommendations for the ARC and PLC program signups. And thank you to our newsmaker sponsors, including Alcivia Co-op, Compeer Financial, Osteoplastics, Animal Wellness Center of Buffalo Valley, Annabis Silo, and Synergy Co-op. Dr. Mitchell, thank you for joining us today. Well, it's that time of year for farmers to start making these decisions on the ARC and PLC programs. And I guess this is for the crop farmers, but briefly, these programs, what's the difference between the two?
Well, PLC is like the traditional commodity support program. It's a price support program. It puts a floor to national prices, $3.70 for corn, $8.40 for soybeans. And these have been around for a long time, this kind of a program. ARC is a little newer. It's still been around a while, but it's a county revenue-based floor. And so it mixes that national price with your local county yields to create a floor at the county level for revenue. And so each county is a little different, whereas the national price for the PLC is the same no matter where you are in the U.S.
And so obviously then each one of these programs probably have different benefits, but also different pitfalls, correct?
Yeah, and that's really why they like to have these two programs. One, so farmers can kind of select the one that works best for them. Traditionally, ARC at the county levels work better in the upper Midwest, whereas PLC has tended to work better in the South for some of those crops, but even that rule doesn't always apply. Wheat isn't a good example there. A lot of farmers like PLC. It's about a 50-50 split nationally on that crop.
We're talking with Dr. Paul Mitchell. He is with the UW-Madison and the UW Extension, talking about some possible recommendations for ARC and PLC for this year. So, Dr. Mitchell, you mentioned it kind of depends upon what part of the country where which one might work better. Why is that? If there's is it just because of the prevailing prices county by county, or just how the program works? I mean, why is one better than the other in different parts of the country?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's really how closely tied your local farm, your crop economy is to that board of trade price or that national price that's so often used. And we're in the upper Midwest, so our crops, corn and soybeans, dominate, and so we tend to be, when our yields are down, prices are up. When our yields are up, prices are down. We tend to move the market globally here. Other parts of the country, crops like rice and cotton, of course, in the South, and some of those, they don't follow the board of trade and that national price as much, and so that's why the Congress, the Farm Bill is sausage making at its best in the DC, and they're trying to make everybody happy. And so they finally, the way they did that a few farm bills ago is to create a price program, PLC, and a revenue program, ARC, to get enough votes to get the program through. And in general, farmers are in different parts of the country are happier with the options to choose.
So for the upcoming year, what are you recommending for Wisconsin farmers for corn, soybeans, and wheat?
Yeah, well, basically, the floors they've created are fairly low. And we've had really good yields in Wisconsin the last 2 years, and we've had really good prices nationally for the last few years. But these programs are tied to, they're fairly conservative in raising these floors. And so, to be frank, this year, for the 2023 crop, they're fairly irrelevant. Farmers are making money the way they like to make money from selling crops at high prices. The Farm Bill is coming out. There should be a new one going in Congress here in 2023 year. And so I expect them to raise these floors, but that's irrelevant for this year we're in now, the 2023 crop. So I'm telling farmers, don't sweat it. This is not a major issue this year. That 370 floor for corn, I mean, the projected price is $5.70 for corn for the 2023 crop. That's the national average price across the whole marketing year. Board of Trade today, December corn is trading for $5.90. Soybeans is $13.90. The floor is $8.40 for soybeans. That's the same price they're using to calculate those revenue guarantees for ARC. And so I'm telling farmers not to sweat it. If you want to pick one, I'd pick ARC because there's a likelihood the county yields are low and you might trigger a payment in your county. But the likelihood of that is very small. And so this is a year I wouldn't sweat it. Pick whichever one you had last year if you're fine with that, or if you want to really play the program and maybe maximize returns, ARC.
Talking with Dr. Paul Mitchell with UW-Madison and UW Extension about the ARC and PLC programs and possible recommendations. I guess, Dr. Mitchell, okay, don't sweat it. I can already hear maybe potentially a few farmers saying, well, then I just won't apply, period. I just won't even participate. But that's a bad idea, isn't it?
Yeah, you want to keep yourself in the program, the records there, because you want to get your yields in there, you want your acres and all that kind of stuff, because the new farm bill, when it comes out, they upgrade these programs. You want to have your yields in there so you can raise your payment yields, so that in the future, when the programs, they've raised these floors, you'll be eligible. The same thing, you want your data in the system. You just want to participate. If you've got the base acres in your operation, re-enroll every year. It's always better, because then in the future, you can apply for the new programs, whatever they are.
And Dr. Mitchell, when farmers are deciding which one to do, then okay, they could, they'll listen to the they hear the recommendation, but when they're doing it for their farm, what are things that they need to really look at before they even make that final decision on ARC or PLC?
It's always a sense of like, well, PLC is always about the price, and you have to decide what price floor you're happy with. ARC at the county level, that guarantee, it's really what helps make it work better for you is if it how closely you follow the county yield. If you're an irrigated farmer in a sandy county that most of the sandy acres drive the corn yields, well, then maybe you're not very tied to the county yield. And so maybe you don't really get a lot of risk management benefit out of these programs. You're better off maybe using PLC. But those are the kind of things where how closely you're tied to the county yield. The only other big thing is they've been linking these programs more and more to crop insurance participation. And so there's some new crop insurance options, supplemental coverage option. You hook that on top of your revenue protection policy. And if you're going to sign up for SCO on top of your revenue protection, you're going to have to elect PLC. And so if you want to try SCO on top of your crop insurance this year, then you got to be sure you select PLC. You can always change your mind. Both these have the same date, March 15th. So you can get the paperwork done on the same day, do it a few weeks beforehand at the latest, and everyone will be happy, your crop insurance agent and the FSA.
Well, some great advice. And Dr. Mitchell, I know that you have some more information for farmers that's available online that they can kind of look at some more things, right? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I put together a web page every year for this election. FSA generally is offering it to farmers, the recommendations and a link to the page. But essentially, if you just Google Paul Mitchell, ARC PLC recommendations, or Wisconsin recommendations for PLC, that kind of thing, you'll find it. If not, send me an email, PD as in David, pdmitchell@wisc.edu. Or even ask your local county agent, your extension agent. He or she should know that they should be able to find. They know about these web pages. They can get a hold of it, me, or get a hold of you, and get the web pages.
And again, producers, again, you can always just talk to our local extension agents. They'll be able to get a hold of Paul. That's how I got a hold of Paul. I got his contact information from Carl Dooley at Buffalo County Extension. So if you do have any further questions, you can even talk with your local extension agent. They will make sure that they get you in contact with Paul or get you to that website as well. Dr. Mitchell, we appreciate you joining us today.
You're welcome, Brian.
That is Dr. Paul Mitchell with UW-Madison and UW Extension. This is the WRDN Morning Farm Report.